Hello and welcome. Well, I want to talk about Class A and Class B waters, especially for the United Kingdom, because at the moment in 2021 we've been hearing a lot about Class A and Class B waters. And why is that? Well, it's got something to do with this.
And now British fish, and they're better and happier fish for it.
Yes, well, esteemed Jacob Rees-Mogg doesn't really understand how the fishing industry works. And since the UK has left the European Union, well, it's all hit the fan. Anyway, before I get into it, don't forget to click like and subscribe, and maybe that little bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy thing in your pocket every time I upload another video. And if you want to support us on Patreon, I'll leave a link down below, and also you can buy us a coffee if you like. It's like a one-off donation-y thingy, because I don't get paid for this, so it's quite nice to keep the wolf from the door. So anyway, Class A and Class B waters. First of all, we need to understand the difference between them and what it basically means. Now, hold on to your britches, because quite frankly, this is rather disgusting. Yes. So, British seas are a cesspool. Now, I'm going to get a bit elaborate with this one, because I think it's totally unnecessary. And you'll see why. So, British seas are a cesspool, yet European Union seas are a paradise. Well, they're not perfect, but they're darn sight cleaner than British seas. Now, our final departure from the European Union on the 1st of January 2021 has exposed a multitude of issues. Some may just be, the famous teething troubles, and many are here to stay. You've obviously heard that, haven't you? If you're a British citizen, that all the problems at the moment are just teething troubles. I have my doubts. In fact, I know it's not true. One scenario that has been brought to my frontal lobe is that the waters around the United Kingdom are full of, well, yeah, they're full of poop. Plastic waste. I've talked about plastic waste before, haven't I? And the occasional FlipFlop. Yeah, Brexit. I'm sorry, I know there's going to be some, obviously, levers out there, but that's your choice. My choice was that I feel we've been better off staying within the European Union. I do apologise if that's not your cup of tea. Well, yeah, Brexit, I've had nothing to share. Sorry about that, but anyway. If they weren't, those waters would have been graded Class A. Pretty much it. If we weren't pooping in our water, in our seas, they'd be Class A waters. No, but but instead, 99% of the waters around the United Kingdom are considered Class B. Considerable levels of E-Coli, a very dangerous bacteria which our British government uses as a method of population control of poor people. So I'm going off on one here. Poor people can't afford to visit the continent for a refreshing swim or have their own pool on the top deck. So take precautions, because floaters can kill. Yeah. So, what is the issue? Well, instead of admitting that the UK coastline pumps raw sewage into the sea more often than it should, on an above average basis, because the Tories are full of it. I'm sorry, I'm not Labour, I'm not Tory either, I'm a Greenie. Yeah. George Eustace blames the EU for, not wanting to eat live bivalve molluscs, fish from the United Kingdom, containing E. coli. Now, I don't eat fish containing E. coli either, do you? No, I guess you don't. Perfectly safe, of course, Mr. Eustace suggests. Yeah. George Eustace, I'm not a fan of George Eustace. He is a liar, and in fact, he's such a nasty little man. He's got form. He suggests that depuration is not necessary, as the self-induced colonic flush normally passes within 24 hours, or you never have to be concerned again. Rest in peace. Let's remind ourselves of why shellfish, fisher persons, are complaining. Now, what are these shellfish? I'm not necessarily talking about the Well, I'm not talking about lobsters and crabs. They're shellfish, yes. I'm talking about the live bivalve molluscs. And live bivalve molluscs would be like your oysters. There'd be like your mussels, your cockles, all the filter feeders. So all the fish that you might like to eat. Generally in the UK, we don't eat a lot of that sort of thing. Anyway, to be honest. But they take in little particles of food in the water. It filters through their body, and it basically takes all the nutrients that they need comes out of it. The problem being is the pathogens that might be in the sea get trapped in the organs of the bivalve mollusk, especially oysters, and they harbour there, and it can harbour E. coli. In fact, it's actually a very high chance. This is not hearsay. No, this is fact. If you don't want to, listen to my little video I'm doing for you here, well then just go online and check it out for yourself. It is gross. So, shellfish such as oysters, mussels, clams, cockles and scallops such as live bivalve molluscs are generally harvested from Class B waters. Yeah. Now, it'd be nice if they were Class A waters, but around the United Kingdom, they're not. There's only 1% of the waters around the United Kingdom that are Class A. So, yeah, this is kind of what it is, really, isn't it? Do you want to take your blue pill, your Class A, or do you want to take your red pill, which is Class B? One of them is going to give you E-Coli, make you very, very sick, or kill you. So, Class A waters means that it's been harvested from waters. So, if you've got fish that are categorised as being fish from Class A waters, it means they've been harvested in good quality because the sea does not contain dangerous levels of human faeces. And they can be exported to, the EU without any problems at all. If it's fished in the Class A waters, the EU say, fine, not our problem. Something I need to make very, very clear here is that the EU has not created new rules around live bivalve molluscs or shellfish in general. No. These are old rules that the United Kingdom took part in actually writing. It's just that the United Kingdom is now classed as a third country. Those in government actually knew this was going to happen, and they're hoping that you didn't notice. So those pesky Europeans from the mainland not happy about eating British shit. It's happy shit. It's exceptional shit. Like something else.
They're now British fish, and they're better and happier fish for it.
Apparently. Thank you, Mr. Mogg. So, Class B waters mean that the shellfish aren't ready for human consumption before being purified. Exporters have previously exported Class B shellfish to the EU. No problems at all. Even though they were fished in poo. Where they were colonically cleansed, basically depurated. So they're purified. And they're put into these big tanks, such as what you see here. And all the water in these tanks goes through filters and UV lights. It kills all the bacteria and all the nasties. It flushes them through. It's like you going and having a colonic. Hose up the bottom. Yeah. Sorry. Now the UK is classed as a third country, the EU Commission has voiced concerns about eating live bivalve molluscs, a delicacy for those with a strong constitution, harvested from Class B waters, but I don't recommend it. It is some stupid Brexit shit. Yes, it's not a good idea. No. Now, the reason why the UK can no longer send their live bivalve molluscs into the European Union is pretty much because they're no longer a member. And they no longer come under the European Court of Justice. The European Court of Justice covers everything within the European Union. Because the European Union is an institution of rules, laws. And laws have to be governed. And now the UK has decided it doesn't want to be governed at all by the European Court of Justice. Well, there is no comeback. There's no legal basis anymore. And the UK has decided to do that and pull themselves away from it. So you obviously have to expect that you're not going to be treated the same as any other member state of the European Union like they were before. I do wish to... Oh, well, I would like to depurate Boris Johnson, yet finding a hose big enough may be a bit ambitious. Now, this is if you... I don't know what I've done. Colon hydrotherapy, eh? Oh, well... I'd done a job for a customer a while back now, and this is what his job was. He did colonic irrigation. Private little clinic he had. And some of the people used to go there while I was working at his house, because I was a woodworker, and I still am. He had customers toing and froing, and some of the faces I recognised off the television. Ooh, celebrities. Have the... Yeah. So anyway, why Class B? Why is Class B Class B? So, the minimum of 8 samples required per year, 90% of samples results to be less than equal of 4,600 E. coli per 100 grams. No sample must exceed 46,000 E. coli per 100 grams. Poo eaten live bivalve shellfish can be supplied for human consumption after one of these processes. The options are purification in an approved establishment, relaying for 1 month in a classified A area. One thing problem we've got here is the United Kingdom's only got 1% of the waters are Class A. Yeah. Plus, if you keep putting poo eating live bivalve molluscs into Class A waters, eventually there will be Class B waters. Yeah. Not helpful, is it? An EU approved heat treatment process. Now, you're probably saying, well, why don't we just send them over there and let them do it? Well, no, now a third country is no longer possible. Oh, okay, then why don't we have our own depuration plants? I heard that George used to said that they're going to award some money so we can build some plants. No, not possible. It won't work. The reason why it won't work is once the bivalve molluscs are being depurated, their shelf life is too short, and they still, when entering the European Union, they still have to be go through the customs processes, such as all the export health certificates and veterinaries and checks and all that sort of stuff. It takes time, and there isn't enough time. By the time the customer actually gets their live bivalve molluscs, or be dead bivalve molluscs. Yeah, because what you do when you depurate them, effectively, you're emptying them out from inside. They've got nothing in their stomachs, so they effectively just starve to death. So shellfish harvested in Class A waters, or have been cleaned and are ready for human consumption, can continue to be exported to the European Union. Yeah. So you could do it. You could depurate them, but they won't last. So there's no point. Now this is one of the reasons. Is many ships are emptying their bilges and also their toilets into the sea. They go out in the middle of nowhere, part of their journey, and they empty it because it's cheap to do so. It's free. Otherwise, they have to pay for discharge. This is happening a lot. So why are UK seas so disgusting? Well, sewage plants. We have a problem in the United Kingdom regarding handling the volume of poo and urine and grey water. So I do have a bit of a theory regarding this. As somebody who lives in France, I see a different approach for the treatment of sewage. Treatment of sewage compared to sewage plants near my birthplace. This particular picture here is actually Whittingham Sewage Works, and I was pretty much, I was born on the other side of the river from here. Yeah, not in the works, no. So this is a typical kind of arrangement for sewage works, and a city might have several of these dotted about. The problem is at times of flood, and exceptional need, as in lots of people pooing all at once. These plants can't necessarily cope. If the wind was right, you used to get a hell of a whiff, and you did. It's horrible. I know people who have collected tomato plants from the sludge, because that's one of the byproducts of this process. You get sludge and put them into their greenhouses. Poopy tomatoes. Because when you eat a tomato and you eat the seeds, they just pass straight through you because they've got a little protective kind of shell on them, and they don't get digested. So they actually carry on growing. Quite clever, really. So British poo is particularly thick. This has to be confirmed by reading Brexit's comments. Now, not on this. I do actually have an anti-Brexit channel as well, which is actually doing really well. And I'm sorry, but sometimes some of the comments aren't that bright. I don't want to be politically incorrect here, but they are fake. I find it embarrassing, because I have a lot of Europeans on there as well, and they're seeing these comments on there and think, what on earth are you on about? So anyway, Brexit historically is not that sweet, no. In 2010, the European Commission is preparing to take the United Kingdom, to the European Court of Justice, alleging it pumps. This was in 2010, right? It's not recently. Too much sewage into the sea. The use of emergency combined sewer outflow pipes, CSOs, around the UK is common. It's too common. Now, the CSOs basically, like I said a moment ago, when the actual the system is overwhelmed, they just pump it out to sea. Raw sewage. Yeah, and your kids are swimming next to that pipe. So, on the Norfolk Broads, Hoddy Fleet used to use seacocks to empty their toilets, a bit like that ship. And allow all poo and pink toilet paper to float down the Surlingham Broad. Thankfully, the Environment Agency banned boaty shitty dumps, and all boats had to have tanks fitted, so they could be pumped out. Yeah. Ironically, these tanks used to have chemical added, which is called Elsen Blue. It's a detergent, basically, quite a strong detergent. Stains everything blue. Yeah, I'm sure you've been to maybe a festival and they've got those blue Thunderbox type toilets, like the site toilets, and they've got horrible blue stuff in there. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's Elsen Blue. And when they got pumped out to sea via the CSOs, so basically you put all that detergent out there, all these pathogen-filled poo and pink toilet paper and urine and grey water, just being pumped straight out to sea. Not clever. Not clever at all. Just like that. And that's a CSO. And there's people bathing in that water. God, have they got a clue? There are more than 20,000 pipes, CSO pipes, that pump raw sewage into the sea in the United Kingdom. Now, we know, these are actually statements, we know that CSOs are going 80 to 100 times a year plus. Now, this isn't under emergency conditions. This is used to discharge raw sewage instead of treating it. Beachgoers say that there is sewage in the sea before they get into the water. Surfers complain that CSOs are making them ill. Yeah, it would. No doubt. You're eating other people's poo. Ooh. And have been among the most vocal in calling foul. Skip the pun, sorry. So, this is a typical French. This was one in Paris, but it's a typical French sewage plant. Now, the big cities do it in a similar way to the UK, and yes, they still have CSOs, but they're not being used to the degree they are in the UK. If you get flooding, serious flooding, they can't cope with the volumes, well then they have no choice. They can't have these things overflowing, obviously. So how does France process sewage? Well, one of the ways they do it, and it's getting more and more common here, they've been doing it for the last 20 odd years, and that is a reed bed systems. Now, my local village here in France use a reed bed system. So sort of say village, towns, small towns will have that kind of system. Very, very simple. And there's no sludge. They get a bit of grit, but there's no sludge. So there's less to get rid of. It's brilliant. Really, it's so simple. And it's environmental, because it's using microorganisms to break down everything, and the reeds and stuff, which create the oxygen in the water, and it just creates this whole process, natural process. And the water that comes out of that is clean enough to drink. I'm not saying you should, but it's clean enough to drink. It's not going to kill you, put it like that. So French reed beds have been around for about 20 odd years for municipal sewage treatment, also used in Italy and many other countries outside the French territories. So French reed bed advantage is that there's no need for primary treatment and no septic tank, and only grit removal. That is a big deal. When you're talking about complete, communities, municipal systems, if you're having to get rid of sludge like they do on these other systems, well, that is a major, major problem. Yeah. The only thing is they're slow, because the microbiological little organisms do the job for you. Obviously, it takes time for them to do that job, whereas the actual processing plants are faster. because it's mechanically driven and stuff. But obviously it uses energy. Whereas these things pretty much use no energy. Maybe a pump here and there. For septics, now it's a typical kind of individual system. So it's a twin tank system. You have your effluent tank, and then you have a bath full, and then you have your outflow tank. Now the effluent tank's where all your poop go into, and then it does all the microbiological stuff. Water's then taken off by the bath through the bathful mid-flow. So you've got the sludge on the top, the scum on the top. You've got the sludge on the bottom, and the mid-flow should be pretty much water. Yeah, it's the heavy sink. And then that goes into secondary process tank, and the whole thing starts again with more microbiological. Anyway, it then goes out to your sand filters and stuff like that. It's actually quite an environmental system. In most cases, there's no power or anything required. It's not. Don't confuse this to the old-fashioned kind of English septic system that looks like an upside-down ice cream cone. Yeah, no, they're like a big ball thing. These are totally different. The only thing you've got to watch out for these is you've got to make sure that, ideally they're either anchored down or that they're always full. Because if the water table comes up, the whole thing can actually float out the ground if there's nothing in it. If there's no water in it at all. It needs liquid in it. Individual systems and forms of phosphseptic use a microbiological process to break down waste. The water leaving the system is clean and discharged through a sand filter. Then you have this little unit here. This is actually a British design, and it's now distributed in France as well. It's approved now in France, and it's another microbiological system, and it works very well and has a very small footprint. It's made by a company called WPL, and the model's called the Diamond. Very simple. It does have a mechanical pump, an air pump, but it's not in the unit. Is above the ground, because all it does is like if you keep fish in a tank in the house, you have a little pipe going in, don't you? And a little bubble there, and blah, blah, blah. You put oxygen into the water. Well, that's what this thing does. It has an outlet at the bottom, an air jet in the bottom, which the air is provided from above via a little air pump, very low wattage indeed, and it creates a bubble of air through the feces and waste, your poop and stuff, the septic. And it stirs the mix constantly and provides oxygen so the microbiological system, can actually do its thing. And it's a similar idea. If you look at this one here, it's very similar to those twin tanks you saw earlier, except the second tank is on the outside. Primary tank is on the inside. But it's pretty much a similar kind of concept. It's just assisted, with this bubble of air coming through the actual liquid. Very good system indeed. So, none of these systems pump raw sewage into the sea now. The water comes out of them, it's clean. Yeah. Straight into your garden, if you like. Straight into a ditch. That particular unit here does not require sand filter or anything. So, if you've got a small footprint, these are perfect. They really are very, very, very good. So, France isn't innocent though. No. It still uses the old style sewage plants in big towns, because of volume basically. And similar to the UK, and it does at times of flood or winter seasons use the CSOs. There are times when it has to pump the stuff out. Now this is something they can deal with, and they are building new systems. And they do more and more of the reed systems in France, which is very, very good, and across Europe, because they're very cheap to run. Once they're built, you pretty much almost forget about it. Very little maintenance. You don't need staff for a start. So, this is a real situation that the United Kingdom really should get on top of, because the idea that we are pumping raw sewage into the sea around the United Kingdom and expect people to eat the fish that is fished there, especially filter feeders such as live Bivalve molluscs, is not just morally wrong. In fact, they're pumping poo into the sea. It's, frankly, going to make everyone ill. Everyone's going to get ill. Yeah. And it's happening more and more and more. And since leaving the European Union, there's no governance anymore. I know they said they rolled over all the laws, but there's no one there to enforce them. So it's going to happen more and more and more. Yeah, brush it under the carpet, Mr. Boris Johnson. That's pretty much his, modus operandum. So anyway, I think it's a little bit sad, and I do believe that the United Kingdom's going to have to do something about this at some point. The only thing is, when will that be, Mr. Boris Johnson? Sooner rather than later, because the situation is going to get worse. This is Ted Ellis, this guy here, and he's an environmentalist guy from Norfolk, and he's a lovely old boy. My father used to hang around with him quite a bit. It's very famous. If you Ted Ellis, so if you do research on Ted Ellis, you'll know what I'm talking about. And you used to go around in a little coracle, one of those little tiny little round little boats, pigskin on them and stuff. You make them out of hazel twigs and stuff. Hell of a character, he really is, or was. He's gone now. So yeah, we need to stop this, and we need to change the way that we do things. I think it's quite sad, personally. So I mean, leave in the comments, tell me what you think about this, because obviously I would be very interested anyway. And also, I do read all my comments. It's only a small channel after all. Actually, I read all the comments on all my channels, which some of them is quite a job. But I do read my comments, and I comment where I can. Anyway, if you want to be most kind and click like and subscribe, maybe that little bell icon, because then you get a notification. Yeah, every time I upload another video. I know you'll be excited about that, and you can support us on Patreon, or you can buy us a coffee, and the links are down below. Anyway, I'm going to do a little bit of research, I think, and see what else is out there. What is going on in the world, eh? I'm going to leave you a little bit of music, and being I'm in France, how about Parisian music? Yes, a bit of old squeeze box. Ta-ta.